As soon as news hit that Justice Stephen Breyer would be retiring, news, of course, came out that Biden would be fulfilling his campaign promise of nominating an African-American woman as a Supreme Court pick. But a new poll finds that the majority of Americans actually want Biden to consider a broader group of potential nominees. In fact, according to an ABC Ipsos poll, 76% of respondents said Biden should consider all possible nominees, while only 23% believe he should consider exclusively Black women for the nomination. The poll also found that participants think that the Supreme Court justices mainly rule based on their political leanings rather than the basis of law. So 43% said that justices make their rulings based upon their political view. Only 38% said it was on the basis of the law, and 18% said that they were unsure. Now, while some right-wingers argue that choosing an African-American judge as a Supreme Court nominee is another form of affirmative action, Senator Lindsey Graham, a staunch Trump reporter and a right-wing senator, argues no, that is not the case. In fact, he has glowing things to say about Biden's favorite and very likely to be the pick, Judge J. Michelle Childs. That makes me worry a little bit, but let's hear what Senator Lindsey Graham has to say.
Put me in the camp of making sure the court and other institutions look like America. You know, we make a real effort as Republicans to recruit women and people of color to make the party look more like America. Affirmative action is picking somebody not as well qualified for past wrongs. Michelle Childs is incredibly qualified. There's no affirmative action component if you pick her. She is highly qualified. And President Reagan said, running for office, that he wanted to put the first female on the court. Whether you like it or not, Joe Biden said, I'm going to pick an African-American woman to serve on the Supreme Court. I believe there are plenty of qualified African-American women, conservative and liberal, that could go onto the court. So I don't see Michelle Childs as an act of affirmative action.
Now later, and I want to go to graphic 4 here, Graham again reiterated that Childs, who received her master's degree and Juris Doctorate from the University of South Carolina, had a wealth of expertise in labor and employment law and would be well suited for the court. I have to be honest, an endorsement from the likes of Senator Lindsey Graham makes me worry. In the coming days, we're gonna be doing a deep dive into Childs because she does appear to be a favorite for Biden. Jim Clyburn specifically has been pushing for her over the last 13 months behind the scenes. And so we'll see how it all plays out. But again, I'm a little concerned about that. And for me, and I think for most people who work at this network, it's not simply about the person's gender or race or sexual orientation. It's about what they represent, who they want to represent, and who they want to fight for. If she has a background in cases pertaining to labor, I want to know more about her rulings in those cases. And to be quite frank, there has been zero coverage of that in the corporate press. Yeah. Zero.
And there never will be. Let's be clear here. It's a massive problem that Lindsey Graham is so excited about her. And so, and also Clyburn. So Clyburn is as corporate Democrat as you will get. So if Clyburn likes someone, that means they will probably do whatever corporations want. And Lindsey Graham, oh my God, double that. So that is massive Chamber of Commerce, pro-lobbyist, pro-corporate endorsements for this candidate. That's a giant blinking red sign, watch out, okay? And so, furthermore, I looked into it and her expertise is labor and employment law. Okay, now do you think that if she was gung-ho for labor, that these corporatists, both on the Democratic and Republican Party, would be salivating over her? Like, oh my gosh, she stood up for labor and fought for higher wages and make sure that they were protected at work. No, she'd have no chance at all. Lindsey Graham would be like, oh, it's an affirmative action pick. We don't need this, is outrageous. I can't believe they're just picking based on race and gender. But when race and gender helps them, all of a sudden identity politics. All of a sudden Lindsey Graham's like, oh, I don't mind at all. I've always been for African-American women. Oh, have you, Lindsey? Have you? I've never seen you be for that in your entire career. So look, we're careful not to prejudge, right? We'll actually look at her record, and if it turns out stunningly her record is great on these issues, we will definitely let you know. But I'm worried about it. But the most important part, guys, is yes, Biden promised it in the campaign, so he's not just saying it out of nowhere, right? I get why it's coming up. But overall, we have to be careful in making sure that opportunities are available to everyone, but we can't let them characterize affirmative action as the way that Lindsey Graham did. Oh, she's not an affirmative action pick, she's actually qualified. No, affirmative action picks are qualified. It's not part of affirmative action that you just pick a rando off the street. No, you say among the qualified candidates, we're saying, hey, this person had a harder time getting to the range of qualified candidates than the other person did. And so, and it could be based on socioeconomic background. You were born poor in a holler in West Virginia, but you rose up and did this. Well, that's interesting. You had a harder time getting into the range of candidates than someone who was born rich and basically had it handed to them, right? So, but when Biden says, I'm going to pick an African-American woman, what a lot of people hear, and that's why you're getting the poll results that you're getting is, oh, I guess they won't even consider me. And so I don't like this affirmative action thing because it eliminates me from contention. And that's not how it's supposed to work.
And all of the messaging and all of the media coverage has just focused on gender and race, rather than the substance of the various candidates who are being considered. Now, when I say substance, I'm not just talking about like which courts have they served on and which schools did they go to. Sure, that's interesting biographical information, but more importantly, how do they tend to rule? Like, how do they pass down decisions? What do they represent substantively? I think that it's incredibly insulting to women or to African Americans or to, in some cases, members of the LGBTQ community, when they're almost like tokenized by members of the political elite in order to give this illusion of change, right? And to be sure, representation, diversity in these important positions is important, but they always stop short of actually nominating or endorsing or backing someone or people who actually want to carry out the best interests of ordinary Americans. They never talk about that, they never cover that, and they never make a robust case for that. That's why, I mean, look, one example that comes to mind is Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who's black. Great, I'm glad he's black, but what does he represent? Is he doing anything different from his white counterparts? And no, he's not. It's more of the same pro-war, pro-private defense contractor garbage.
Yeah.
So whether it's a white guy doing it, whether it's a woman doing it, whether it's a black guy doing it, it does not mesh well with what our political views are, right?
So why does Biden care, and do we care about it being an African-American woman? Biden loves the idea. Why? It's going to appease his base without actually passing any laws, right? And so he gets to say, hey, I stuck up for African-American women, my most loyal voting base, by putting one on the Supreme Court. But not only does he not have to actually pass any laws which would actually change your lives, but on top of that, he could pick the most pro-corporate person in the world, and as long as he checks off the boxes on identity, the press will give him credit. And they will do marketing for him, and they'll scream from the rooftops, Joe Biden delivered for women, Joe Biden delivered for black people, when he might be doing the exact opposite. Now, why do we care that there's somebody that has a different perspective on the court? Because it's important. Sotomayor probably represents me better than any Supreme Court justice in my life, because she actually comes at it from the same perspective that I do, even though she's of a different race, background, etc. But she grew up poor as an immigrant and brings that perspective, not just the identity, but the perspective. And a perfect example in politics is, well, Jim Clyburn is black and so is Cori Bush. They're both in the Congressional Black Caucus. Cori Bush has our perspective, which is fighting for the average person, get wages up, provide healthcare. Clyburn has a totally pro-business perspective. Business can't do anything wrong, and who gives a damn what the voters think? The donors will get what they want. Well, Clyburn doesn't help the African American community. He doesn't have our perspective, he doesn't have African American perspective, he just has the corporate perspective. He not only doesn't help, he's counterproductive. They hide They're pro-corporate agendas that oppress all of us in a wrapping that the press gets to market to you all as if there's a change, when in reality, they're doubling down on the status quo.
Exactly. And so far, what we do know about her is the fact that she did grow up, in a blue collar community. Her father died at a young age. That she was living in Detroit with her mother at the time. Because of an increase in violence in the area, they later moved out of the state, and she did work her way up. But it's not just about her background either. It's also about her performance as a judge. Barack Obama nominated her for federal court back in 2010, and I want to know more about her rulings. And so that's something that we're going to be talking about in coming days. Since there's virtually no reporting on that, we actually have to go back and look at legal documents and see the decisions that she's handed down. But again, I think that it's a disservice to the American people to just boil it down to, oh, she's a woman, she's black, and that's good enough. No, people are not interchangeable. People have substance to them. Let's talk about that substance.
Yeah, so last two things. Tomorrow on The Conversation, David Sirota is going to break down the court's business record, because it's not just liberal or or conservative. More important for the justices is, how do they rule in business cases? Are they pro the workers or are they pro business? And unfortunately, a lot of the Democratic nominees, not just the Republican nominees, rule in favor of business more than they rule in favor of us. And so that's the one thing, as usual, that unites corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans, which is that they will do anything their business interests ask for. Last thing on the race that's so obvious, guys. Dr. Oz is Turkish, I'm Turkish. Dr. Oz is now a Trump supporting maniac, if you ask me, okay? If they said, hey, Cenk, don't worry, we're gonna send Dr. Oz to the Senate, now you're represented. No, I'm not represented. I don't care that we're from the same background, and he has a nice, great story about how he rose up as well. That doesn't make supporting Trump and wanting to end democracy right. It doesn't make quackery right. It can't just be the identity. It has to be the policies. And if you don't hear them talking about the policies, that means they're coming to screw you. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.